Hello and welcome to this next tutorial in Python programming. We're going to be looking at object-oriented coding today, and specifically how to make a class and then how to instantiate an object from that class. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, basically, if you are doing stuff procedurally and you want, for example, to have a person, or you want to model a person in your code, you would have to define all the things that make up a person. So, for example, their name and their age. Then say you want to define a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth person. You'd have to have different variables for each of these, people that we've created in code. Now, to save us writing an awful lot of code and to make management much easier, we can use a concept known as object-oriented programming. So what we do is we create a template for a person in this case. We set up all the things that describe them, their attributes, and then we set up all the things that they can do. Now that's the methods. And once we set up this template, a class, we can generate as many software versions of this person as we actually want, and we don't have to keep repeating code. And that's called the object. So we create the person object out of the template, out of the class, and then we can do that as many times as we want. So it saves us repeating an awful lot of code. So what I've done here is I've defined my class with the keyword class, and I've called it person, and I've got an uppercase P, that is tradition, so just so you know it's a class rather than anything else, and you need the colon. Now once we've done that, we need a special method called a constructor. Now what this does, it sets up like default values, if you like, for everything that we're going to be doing next. So this is our constructor. We've got the keyword def, and then this is actually double underscore. It's a mistake most people make when they start doing this. They only have one underscore. Now again, I don't know if you noticed, init stands for initialize. That was blue because I had it backed up exactly to the edge of the double underscore. You need to make sure that happens. And again, no space here. Make sure that's all together. Now in the brackets we have got our default values that we're going to have. So we've got self, name and age. So each person is going to have a name and an age. But what is self? Self is basically, you can imagine it like a variable that holds a person object, because with this code we can generate 1 million people if we want, and as we pass them in, we need somewhere to hold that particular object that we're dealing with at that moment in time. So self is like a placeholder, or you can think of it like a variable for holding the current object being worked upon. Okay. So our person is going to be a very simple person. They're going to have a name and an age. So I've got those defined here. And then we're saying self.name equals name. So that's current object name equals name and current object age equals age. Because what we're going to do, we're going to pass values into the constructor to set up the particular person's name and the particular person's age. And you'll see that in a minute. The next thing we're going to do is set up a little method. And this method is a very simple one. This is one for changing the name. And so I've called it change name, just checking my indentation. And here again, we've got the keyword self that will hold the object being passed in. And then nName is just short for new name. And again, here we set the current object and name to be the new name. Okay. So that is our basic class created. So I'm going to go right back to the edge of the screen here, and I'm going to create my first object. Now this is super easy in Python. All we have to do is give our object a name, and I've called it P1, short for person1. You set it equal to the name of the class, which in this case is person, and then we pass in to the constructor here John, which is going to go into name, and 36, which is going to go into age, and then these lines will set that to be, that'll be our object P1's name and age. So just to check that that's all worked, what we can do is we can print, for example, the object1's name attribute just to make sure we've done it all right. And here I've just got a print statement with a string of text here first saying P1 name is, and then the way we access P1's name attribute is by using the dot notation method. So we go P1 because that's our object, dot name, and that will print object P1's name, which in this case is John. If we wanted to print their age, we could just go print P1 dot age and it would give us 36. Okay, now that's nothing particularly special at the moment, because you could be thinking, well, hang on a minute, I could just statically set all of this. But the beauty of this is I can reuse this code now as much as I want. So if I make a second object, which I'm going to cunningly call P2, let's pop that in there, and this now is a completely new object, separate from P1. It's going to have the name of Andrew and an age of 50. And again, I can just check that all works by just printing out the name value, just to make sure that everything is as it should be. And that will now print his name. Now, finally, I'm going to use the method change name to change one of our object's names. And I'm just going to do that here by calling the change name method. And we do that in a very similar way to accessing an object's attributes. We just use the name of the object, so in this case P2, the dot notation, so dot, the name of the method, which is change name, and then in the brackets we put the name we want to change it to, and then finally, I reprint it and we see that it has now changed Andrew's name to Fred. So we'll just test that now. We'll run it and make sure everything works, and we'll just call this class X2 for class example 2, and we can now check our code. Is it doing what we expect? Yes, it is. So you can see P1's name is John, P2's name is Andrew, and P2 name is now Fred, because we have accessed this change name method and changed Andrew's name to Fred. Well, there you go. That's how to set up a basic class in Python, how to create a constructor, how to create a method for that class, and how to create, or the correct word, how to instantiate some objects, and also how to access the attributes of those objects, and how to access a method from that object. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in a future tutorial. Thank you for now. Bye-bye.